Mm, 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 mm. Well, hey there, little guy. Whoa, whoa, little buddy. Slow down and tell me what's wrong. Uh-huh. Okay. So you're saying that Chad needs help? He's trapped in a well? And the well's full of tigers? With ray guns? Chad needs our help. You're right. I guess you are right, little buddy. If we're gonna save Chad, we're gonna need to assemble Retroforce.
Flames are pouring from the buildings now. There's cars toppled, buildings entirely just crushed and crumbled. I'm not sure if it's safe to report from my vantage point. I really need to leave. Civil Defense has informed me that the surrounding areas are in ruin. I see some people running now. In the opinion of this reporter, if this nation, or in fact the world, ever needed heroes, that time is now. That time is now.
And welcome to Retroforce Go, Episode 3. This is your host, Dyson, your lovely, sexy host of Retro, who is joined by his other lovely, sexy hosts, Chad Conselmo.
Ooh, I'm sexy.
Colette Bennett.
Ooh, I'm sexy.
And Topher Cantler.
I'm not sexy. You guys suck.
No, you're seductive. It's much better than sexy.
Topher, you have a personality.
Oh, that's something you say to fat people.
So wrong.
That's terrible, and I've heard that often. All right, dude. All right.
Where's the motherfuckers that said that to Dyson Grigsby? I will bust the cap in their asses.
Well, thanks. That's right. Colette's my bodyguard, much like in the 1980s movie.
I'll fuck you up, yo.
Ooh, cool. Well, back to basics. Normally, we kind of go over the downloadable content, but I just want to talk about something really quick. Occasionally, I go out to the Goodwills in the local area, and for the listeners at home, I live in San Francisco, and since there's a lot of dirty hippies, there's a lot of Goodwills, and usually you can find some like okay shit, but whatever. Point being, I'm always on the scourge for retro games, and today was an exceptionally cool day. But I'll preface it by yesterday. Or I'll summate real quick. I found a Wiimote for $14. I found, yeah, no shit, huh? I found an old Space Invaders handheld game.
What?
Yeah, dude. Remember the old ones where it was like the little LEDs?
I totally
have
remember
one.
that.
Yeah. It was kind of janky, but I fixed it, and now it works perfectly. It's fucking awesome. But you have no idea what I found today.
Yes, I do.
Guess. No, seriously. What is the fucking weirdest Nintendo item you could ever imagine me finding?
Mario's corpse in an alley?
No.
A mint copy of Bubble Bath Babes.
I wish. No, but a little more PG and just think goggles.
Virtual Boy?
Yep, I found a Virtual Boy.
Nice.
What?
Yeah, I was fucking rooting through the Goodwill and found a Virtual Boy for $2.99.
Woo!
Wow.
Speaking of virtual things, Virtual Console this week, we had a couple games come out.
It was actually a good week. 4 games.
Give or take. It was better than last week, that's for sure. I don't know. Anything good come out that you wanted to get, Chad?
Well, the best game this week is by far Zelda 2, I think. I was a huge fan of that game, and I never really understood why it got a lot of, haters.
Actually, I was going to say the opposite. I was a big non-fan of that game, and I couldn't understand why people really loved it.
See, I think the reason I liked it is because how they had that upgrade system where you could upgrade your hit points and your strength and your magic. I think that was always something that they should add to other Zeldas, and they never did.
Well, it was like a role-playing game. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say that I'm like right in the middle of you two guys about this game. It's weird because I played it and I loved it, but when I go back to play it now, I think that the reason I loved it so much is because of childhood, because I was so in love with Zelda and I was so in love with Nintendo.
The retro goggles?
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't think it's a terrible game, but, it's definitely, in my opinion, it's a much lesser game than the original Zelda.
And that's you went and played it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I still play it, but I feel like it's the nostalgia that pushes me.
Okay.
I really do.
Toph, you were gonna say something?
No, I wasn't. No, I've never played all the way through it. I don't know why.
Well,
I just
It's pretty
never
hard,
thought-
actually.
Not that I don't
Yeah.
like it. I couldn't get into it really.
Well, I always find it strange that, like Topher, I couldn't get into it, and the first one was a huge hit. That's not an argument. And then the second one came out and was highly expected, and then there was a shortage because I guess they had a chip shortage, so it was really hard to get. So everybody wanted it. It was the new Zelda, but I just recall that nobody was so hot about it. I mean, keep in mind when I say I recall, I was like 12, or something like that. I just remember that it was just like it came out, everyone played it, and was kind of like, oh, this is nothing like the first one, and they weren't really happy with it. It was a side-scrolling Zelda all of a sudden, and then you would hit the enemies, and then you go into the fight mode, and that's where you get like the hit points and the magic points and things like that. I didn't think it was bad, but I don't know. I think Chad likes it a little bit more than the rest of us.
I like it a lot, actually. I just downloaded it, and I played a lot the last couple of days, and I think it's a pretty great game, actually. It's surprisingly deep. I mean, even when you're walking on the overworld and the monsters you encounter, one of them would be a little slime-looking guy, and that would mean it was a weaker battle, and then one of them would be kind of like a four-armed like demon guy, and that means it was like a harder battle, and that was kind of cool for back in the day to kind of have that depth to it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
fuck
no,
y'all.
there's stuff about it I like. There really is. I'm just saying it's one of those games that I think it's strengthened by the retro goggles for sure.
That's actually true. I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have some people in the industry have like made a very valiant attempt to like spearhead the greatness of Zelda 2, but personally, I'm just like, I wouldn't download it. But keep in mind, if I actually have a copy of it, not the actual copy, but there was a Zelda collector's disc for the GameCube that had Ocarina of Time plus the Master Ocarina of Time, and then it had Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. So I don't need to download it. Like, I actually have it.
Nah.
So I might, if it was like $5, I might from the Virtual Console, but otherwise, I don't know. It's retro goggles. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, right. No, I agree.
What else came out? Milton's. Is it Milton or Mylands?
It's Mylands.
Secret Castle?
Yep.
So what's the secret?
I don't know.
Mylands
Chad,
a girl.
You must know.
That's Metroid.
Oh,
Have you guys played this game?
I played it when I was a kid.
I have
And I
not.
remember it being not very good.
Chad? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, funny enough, I was going to say, I think Chad has a very different opinion about this game.
Well, actually, I kind of like Mylands Secret Castle, even though everyone pretty much hates it. I think, like you said before, with Zelda 2, it might be a retro goggles thing. But I remember playing that game so much when I was little, and I think the main reason, I guess, was just because it was so freaking impossible that I guess I was trying to beat it. So I would have to keep playing it over and over again, but I don't know, I have somewhat fond memories of it.
Or would you recommend downloading it?
That's a good call. I probably would say no, because it really is ridiculously hard.
Is it hard because it's just like, it's a shitty game, or is it hard because it was intended to be hard?
Kind of a combination. I mean, you had to do this, like, you shot bubbles, which really didn't make any sense. And you had to, like, you were in these stages with all these, like, bricks and blocks, and you pretty much had to shoot your bubbles at every brick and block to find a random one that would, like, unlock, like, a secret thing to open the door to get out of the level. It really, honestly, made no sense. I mean, really, it really had,
That-
like,
yeah.
That's
That
how a lot
I
of
totally
old
remember.
that's how a lot of old NES games were.
And it was crazy because you had one life and there was no continues, and the game was like pretty huge. I mean, it was a giant castle, and there was tons of levels and tons of bosses, and you had like this little energy bar. So if you died, after playing it for a couple hours, you'd have to start all the way over from the beginning.
What?
Yeah, it was pretty much the worst thing ever.
No. Don't download that. Don't.
Yeah, wait, I changed my mind. I do not like that game anymore.
I know. Sounds terrible. Well, you said it was a good week, so what else came out? Or were you just
Well, I
talking
said
about
a good
Zelda
week.
2?
I'm in a good week mostly because it was 4 games and not 3.
What else came out?
For the Genesis, Toe Jam and Earl, the sequel. I think it's like something Panic on
Funkatron.
Yeah, which is actually not that bad of a game. I don't know if you guys ever played that.
I have, actually. I beat the original Toe Jam and Earl, and then when the Toe Jam and Earl 2 came out, it was a pretty big deal. But I didn't really care for it that much because it became a 2D side-scroller.
I was gonna say, yeah, it changed the perspective of it, but it was still not bad though.
Well, some of you listeners may surmise the fact that I kind of like my series to evolve a certain way, and usually that is to not change. The people, I don't remember the name of the company that made Toe Jam and Earl, but they weren't the same company that made Toe Jam and Earl 2, which is why it's so different. So it wasn't as, to me, I just played through like maybe like half of it once, and I was like, blah. So that's all I remember. I don't know. Do you guys have any fond memories of it?
Not really.
I
I
don't,
remember it
no.
being a fun distraction.
Yeah, so unless you have fond memories of it, I'd just say forget it. What else is it? This is one more, huh?
The last one was Dead Moon, which I think a lot of people haven't heard of.
No,
I've
they're
never heard of that.
Toph, you heard of it?
Where? It's a Creedence Clearwater Revival song.
No,
Yes, it actually is a game version of the Clearance.
You play
Clearwater
John
Revival.
Fogerty trying to get the rights back to all the songs he wrote.
It's actually a side-scroller shooter, like the probably 17,000th one to come out for the TurboGrafx Virtual Console.
All right, I wasn't the only one who noticed that.
Yeah, the first thing I noticed when it came out, I was like, can they release another side-scroll shooter? Because they've already have about 50 of them.
Because there's not enough yet for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I actually played this once when I was little, from what I remember, and it's not terrible, but like I said, if you have so many of those shooters, like, why waste your time with another one?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Unless
it's not
it's
a bad
amazing.
one. Well, I played it yesterday, and it's all right. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. The power-up system is okay. It's like, enemies come at you from the right, you fly to the right. You guys meet up in the middle, try and shoot them and not die. The only thing is about it, when you gain your power-ups, that's kind of like your shield. So every time you get hit, you lose your power-up, like, to a different level, and then you have to, till the point where if you get hit again, you die. And so, I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. So, I mean, if you've downloaded Blazing Lasers, you probably don't need to download this.
Blazing Blazers.
Lasers.
Lasers. Pew, pew, pew.
Lasers.
Well, that's about it, huh?
Yeah, it's a pretty brief week.
Wait, we're forgetting another system.
The Xbox 360!
All right. Topher's going to tell you about how he feels about this game coming up, but I just think it's funny that 2 episodes ago we were making fun of Nintendo for releasing Pac-Man on the Virtual Console. We're like, hey, who the fuck doesn't have Pac-Man? And yet,
Yeah,
oh
but
my
it's
god,
not just Pac-Man.
full circle.
Yeah.
Oh really? Oh really? Is there more? Tell me.
Oh, it's Pac-Man Championship Edition.
Pac-Man Rave Club Edition.
Ooh, do you
More
get
or
to
less,
eat
yeah.
ecstasy instead of pellets?
I don't know. I'm not very good at it, so maybe that's an item that you could eat later on. If I didn't suck so bad at Pac-Man, I might make it far enough to tell you that.
Did you download the whole thing?
I did.
I
And I'm not
played the
sorry.
demo, so I mean, I got my 3 minutes of demo, which, by the way, thanks Microsoft for not constantly reminding me every 2 seconds during the 3 minutes that it's a demo. I appreciate that. You just play for 3 minutes and it's like over. Okay, cool. As opposed to every other damn game. But Toph, you download the whole thing, so
Yeah, it's good. It's widescreen, high def, blah blah blah, fancy, and yeah, it's good.
well,
It's Pac-Man, but it's new.
new.
Ooh.
Is this like new Coke? New
It's
Pac-Man?
the new old Pac-Man. Yeah, they've done a
Yeah,
really good
because
job.
new
of,
Coke kind of sucks.
New
Well,
Coke was terrible.
It's Pac-Man Classic.
Ew.
It's Pac-Man Classic. Well, one of the things I noticed is they don't fill up the whole screen full of the pellets. You actually have to eat a certain
Yeah,
amount, then
it'll-
you get the piece of fruit, and then it fills up more.
Yep, there'll be just one little area with the pellets, and then you have to get the fruit to make the rest of them come up.
I wasn't able to get to like the end of that level, if there is a level, in the 3 minute time that I played it. So my question is, are you always in that same arena, or are there different arenas?
No, there are different ones, and actually, the further you progress, the level will change, but there's no stop like there used to be. Like there's no okay, level 2.
Yeah, it just
It's all
keeps
just
going.
it'll just shift on you all of a sudden. When you'll get a piece of fruit and the whole level just changes suddenly.
Do they have any of those fun cutscenes where like Ms. Pac-Man was like chasing Pac-Man and then they like bonk heads? and
No,
they fall
sadly
in
there
bugs?
aren't. No.
Oh, those are the best things.
So they took out the romantic subplot.
Yeah, there's no romantic subplot.
I
No
pay
love
good
story.
hard American cash for my romantic subplots.
Well, you can't have it all.
Well, why
Tyson.
not? Damn it.
You just
Wow.
can't.
Well, would you recommend that someone download this? Because I mean, seriously.
I
it's-
totally would. If you're a fan of Pac-Man, definitely.
So I'm assuming that it's got achievements and leaderboard and all that.
Yeah, it's pretty much Pac-Man on live. as it ever was. But it is a lot of fun. It really changes things up, and they do a really good job of making it interesting and new, but still keeping it Pac-Man that
it
you
has
remember.
the big
There's-
glowing, pulsing rave lights that come at you.
Yeah, and you'll bite a ghost, and the screen shakes, and it's just like bam, bam, balam.
Bam-a-lam.
Pac-Man Bam Balam edition.
So it sounds like we got a couple winners today. Zelda 2. Even if
Yay.
you have the retro goggles, it's still a good game.
It's a good game. Come on, people.
Pac-Man Championship Edition.
Bam Balam edition.
Bam-Balam Edition. Worth your money. The first Pac-Man worth your money since the original
Worth your-
Pac-Man. How about that? Dead Moon, you've played it. Go listen
Yep.
to some CCR albums instead. What else? Myland Secret Castle. Definite retro goggles. Do not buy.
Yeah.
Do not
It went
buy.
from a yes. It went from a yes
Do
to a
not
no
buy.
within like 30 seconds.
I know you're like, this game was great because it's shit. Fuck. Whoops. Sorry. And then you got your Genesis selection: Toe Jam and Earl, Panic on Funkatron. I'm gonna say if you have good memories of it, get it. But and if you've never played it before, you're not missing anything. All right, well that's it. Section 1. Going to a break. We're gonna listen to some Reverend Anthony and join you back on the second half of the show for a little bit of Sega talk. All right, see you then.
He's mad this week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Rev Anthony here. I'm going to jump straight into it because most weeks I don't really have rants. I just have things to tell you, games to recommend, shit like that. This time it's a fucking full-blown rant. Now, I don't play online games that often. My Xbox Live won't work online. I'm not a big fan of World of Warcraft or whatever. But I do still play Day of Defeat and Counter-Strike on Steam. If you actually want to play with me, my Steam name's Reverend Anthony, if you are so inclined. But my problem with Day of Defeat is this. Fucking people. Everybody who's ever wanted to be clever when talking about multiplayer games has said that the only bad thing about multiplayer games is that you have to play with other people. Every single person you've ever met has come up with that quote at some point and thought they were the cleverest person in the world. But nonetheless, I'll say it now because the phrase just fits. Now, there are a bunch of complaints somebody can have with an online game, but I'm not even talking about the gameplay. I'm not even talking about imbalanced issues. I'm not going to whine about the AWP and Counter-Strike. My problem is with these fucking people that set up a server about a World War II game that plays Day of Defeat. It runs a World War II game, extremely violent, blood everywhere, headshots, and don't allow their players to curse. Now, I can understand maybe if you don't want racism, if you don't want sexism, if you don't want personal insults because it's just a game and it shouldn't matter like that. But when you're not allowing me to just say fuck when I get killed, when I'm angry, who the fuck are you to look at a World War II, a game that fictionalizes one of the most violent wars in the history of mankind, to look at that and say, you know what, you can't say bitch, or ass, or bastard. I was at a server that literally banned a guy for saying bastard. Just because he got killed. He said, oh, you bastard. You can fucking say bastard on TV. And I told the admin, I said, you can say that on TV. He goes, well, you can't say it here. Now, I have no problem with the fact that, it's their server and they can do what they want to do. But I'm not arguing against the fact that it's their server and it's their rules. I'm arguing against the fact that these people are fucking idiots. You're playing a violent video game that, you're killing people as the point of the game. Now, I'm not going to go out on Jack Thompson land and say that, you're training to do bad things, but I'm just saying the actual fucking source, the substance of the game is violent. It's about killing, the worst thing one human being can do to another. And you're going to say that I can't say bastard or bitch or fuck? Who are you? How stupid and fucking old-fashioned do you have to be to play a game and have the hypocrisy, have the outright gall to say that you can shoot somebody in the head from 2 miles away with a sniper rifle, spraying blood everywhere in a war that really happened, the simulated war that really, really happened in life, and say that, no, you can't say a word that means to copulate. You can't say a synonym for feces. Even if the context doesn't matter. Even if it's just an exclamation of anger. An exclamation of, oh, fuck, I got TK'd. Fuck. You would ban somebody for that? How fucking dare you? And what's worse than that is I was at a different server. It was like, exclamation point TAC was the server, was the clan server. And when you curse, it censors you, and then you get this exact phrase in response to you. To punish you for swearing. It says, please watch you language. Please watch you language. You are gonna fucking tell me not to curse at you, and you can't even construct a proper fucking sentence? Why don't you learn some fucking grammar, and then, maybe then, I will not curse in your fucking server. But probably not, because it's a fucking violent game, and I should be able to do that, okay? It's one thing to be racist, it's one thing to call a person a fag, it's one thing to call a person a stupid cunt, you know, or just try and insult the person personally. It's another to just say the word with no context other than anger or frustration. Who the fuck are you to say something like that and not even be able to construct a proper fucking sentence when you're telling me what to do or not to do in your server? Again, it's your server, I can understand that, but you're just a fucking idiot. I am arguing against these people as human beings, not in terms of fairness on their server. I'm not saying they shouldn't be able to do what they want on their server. I'm just saying, who are these fucking people that can play these online video games, these violent video games, and somehow decide that, no, you can't say bitch ass. You can't say fuck cock. Stuff like that. In a game that fucking revolves around the worst thing you can do. It's this ridiculous forced sense of politeness. I'm all for politeness. I'm all for respect for everybody. But if you're going to force that upon people, then it loses all of its meaning. Have you people not seen A Clockwork Orange? The whole point is that if you try to enforce politeness or righteousness, morality on people, then it's not morality at all. The only purpose for something like that is freedom. And for these guys to say that we have to be respectful and the way we're going to enforce respectfulness is by fucking banning you if you say bastard is outright ridiculous and hypocritical. I went to another server that said you have to apologize for every team kill you get or you get banned. Now, why? The purpose of an apology is to show genuine remorse for something you have done. An apology loses all of its fucking meaning if you're forcing somebody to do it at the risk of getting banned. How fucking ridiculous is that? When I apologize to somebody after TKing them, I do it because I'm sorry that I team killed them and it's my fault. I apologize. When you fucking force me to do it at the risk of getting banned, you make it meaningless. You take all the respect, all the meaning of a gesture that actually means something in a regular game, and you fucking made it mandatory. It's meaningless. What the fuck is wrong with you people? I can understand a quest for decency. I don't want people saying cockfag, you know, calling me a cockfag, sick, stuck, dick sucker, ass, liquor, fucking shit, you know, whatever, just because I killed them. You know, little 12-year-old kids whining and using curses because they think it's cool and they think it makes them adult. I'm not for that. What I am for is the ability for people to say what they want so long as there's a reason for it and so long as it doesn't hurt other people. How old are you? How fucking old-fashioned or naive are you to see the word fuck and just on its own, without any context, not even being used against anybody, see that word and think, oh, no, it means something bad, it's horrible. You have to leave my server because you are bringing bad vibes. And who the fuck what are you, 60? What, did you fucking grow up when Elvis was still getting protested for shaking his hips? How fucking old-fashioned or ridiculous are you? Are you the kind of person who tries to get Harry Potter banned from libraries because it's fucking witchcraft? What kind of people play these video games? Jesus fucking Christ. This will probably be the angriest Reverend rant, because I just got out of a server that talked about this shit. Next week we'll be back to being reasonably even-handed rant, but Jesus Christ, these fucking people, I can't, Anyway, if you want to send me an angry email, or a nice one, reverendanthony@gmail.com. I'll see you next week. See ya.
All right, welcome back. This is part 2 of episode 3, and we're going to talk about some Sega. I hope you guys enjoy, because I certainly do enjoy my Sega. And as a matter of fact, today, shit you not, I was enjoying a fine classic that most of you have probably never heard of. It's this game called Rocket Knight for the Sega Genesis, and I won't go into any detail because I'm pretty sure it was an obscure title, but I was just busted out my Jenny, and I was like, you know what, I want to play some games.
Busted out my Jenny.
Please please do not tell me you just called it a Jenny.
I did, sorry.
Classic, can I play you a Jenny?
Alright, I'll call it the Genesis from now on. Well, I'm not the one who gave it the girl names. You got the Jenny, and if you're from England, it's called the Mega Drive, so you can call it Megs. Don't ask me. I didn't name this crap. Anyway, so my Genesis and I were playing a video game today called Rocket Knight, and I look at it, and it's actually made by Konami. And you're this weird little like opossum with a suit of armor and a jetpack, and I know that sounds totally fucking lame, but it's fucking. I swear to God, if it comes on the Virtual Console, you need to buy
Yeah,
it.
Alex.
Actually, that sounds pretty cool. A possum with a jetpack.
That does sound actually really cool.
Dude, next time you guys are over in like the fortress of Retrotude, I will allow you to come over and play because it's really fun. And it's one of those games that's so fucking hard. And it's like you get 3 continues. That's it. Actually, it was if you play on easy, and you get like 3 guys. That's it. And I believe it has like 5 or more levels, but I've never actually beaten it. And I was playing it today, and that's why I bought it off eBay. And I was like, oh, I want to have this game again because I have memories of it. You know, the retro goggles. But just maybe I do have a Genesis and several other Sega machines, and that's why I was like, wow, you know, a lot of people give a lot of retro. It goes towards Nintendo and everything that they did, understandably. But I think this, you know, the Sega had a huge impact on, you know, the 8-bit and 16-bit generations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know I had a bunch of systems. Did you guys?
I had, for Sega, I had everything other than the Sega Master System. And the only reason I didn't have Sega Master was because Nintendo was the big shit. I bought, my parents bought Nintendo. But, like, I think I completely, the only reason why I realized that I had missed Sega Master was because when Genesis came out, I got Genesis as well, and I fell in love with Phantasy Star 2, which is actually one of my favorite role-playing games of all time. And then I found out that the first one was on the Sega Master System, but I never ended up getting it. My parents were like, you have enough.
I never had one either.
Let me interrupt you for 2 seconds, and then you can carry back on. Do you know what I'm holding in my hands right now, Clint?
Are you holding a copy
Do we
of
wanna
Phantasy
know?
Star 2 in the box with the...
No. I'm holding a copy of Phantasy Star 1 in the box.
Ooh, Colette, what will you do for it?
Stuff I shouldn't say on the air.
We'll talk about that after the show. Now carry on.
Yeah. I'm totally willing to be dick slapped for the copy of that game,
Oh my god!
Well, listeners, now you know what you need to buy.
I did that for a copy of Bubsy, and it totally didn't work out for the best.
I have so much less respect because it was for Bubsy.
Well, I thought it was going to be the new big thing.
That's why it didn't work out.
I'm so ashamed.
I love it. Yeah.
So
Anyway.
Phantasy Star, huh?
Yeah, Phantasy Star, fell in love. And then Sega CD I actually had, and I don't even know why. Like, I can't even imagine why my parents would think that that was a good idea to buy. But I have almost no memories of Sega CD. However, I have really fond memories of Sega Saturn because of Nights into Dreams, which was like my favorite game. I would actually buy that system just to play that game. Of course, now I don't have to, but like I would.
That was the huge hit on that system.
Oh my god!
It was really fun. I loved that game.
Yeah, it was
such
the new
a fun
Sonic.
game. So easy to play, so pretty. I mean, I have the best memories of that game. And maybe it's retro goggles, and when I go back, it won't be as good. I don't know, but
I don't
man,
know. I think it might hold up.
Yeah.
Well,
I
are you
kinda
excited
think it
then
might-
about the new one coming out for the Wii?
Yeah, I'm totally excited about it. I'm hoping most of all that they will actually use the Wiimote, to allow you to control knights. And a lot of people are saying they're not sure whether or not that's actually going to happen or not. So I'm really hoping that that's what we get to see. But I mean, regardless, I think it'll be wonderful. I really do. And I can't wait to play it again.
Aw. Oh, I wouldn't be too worried if they're gonna incorporate a good control scheme, because I believe that for the Sega Saturn, Nights into Dreams actually came packaged with an analog controller so that you could play the game better the way it was intended.
Ah.
So I mean, if they're gonna take it that seriously, then obviously there's a lot of fan base for the game. Whatever works best, they'll do the second time around.
Right. Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
You actually had a Sega Saturn?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did anybody else have one?
No. I got
No.
so angry for some reason.
You're like, no.
I had a friend who had one that I used to play, and
There you
I
go.
hated him for it. But no.
I just never bought into it because I actually ended up getting the PS1. Sorry.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't remember any game that was worth playing on the Sega Saturn other than that. Like, I used to play this game, either came prepackaged with it or was one of the first games called Bug.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I remember that
You remember
too.
Bug?
Yep.
And they released it recently on GameTap, and when I saw they were going to release it, I was all like, oh, cool, blah, 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 And then I went and downloaded it, and I was like, this kind of sucks. I mean, it wasn't like the worst thing ever, but like it was not that good.
It's like
and I was
Bubsy
like,
3D.
Yeah, but I had I had it once again retro goggles, man.
The reason I never ended up getting a Saturn because I didn't have a Master System, but I did end up buying a Genesis from my friend. Not after the fact, but I actually bought it during the 8-bit, 16-bit era, so it was still current. Not like one of those I bought it 3 years later or 10 years later. But I did buy the Master System converter, which you could plug into the top of the Genesis and play your old Master System games, which came on both cartridge and card format. So that was awesome. I did get a Sega CD. I bought the original version 1 where it went on the bottom of the Genesis and had the disc loading tray. And I returned it because it was, was it 17, 18? I don't know. It came out in 92, so yeah, I was 17 years old. And $300 was a lot of goddamn cash back then.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
it
yeah.
Sure was.
Yeah. But I was awesome. Nothing really came out for it. And then 2 years later in 94, they came out with a 32X, which, historically there was a lot of anticipation for this, but it really just wasn't that good. And then a year later, they came out with a year later in 95 in America, they released the Saturn. So it's you've just kind of within 3 years, you've released 2 new systems, both of which, and it's you get to the Saturn, and it's everyone had this wait and see. The consumers just fucking were well, you just bailed on 2 of the systems you just released. Let's see what happens. And not only that, the Saturn was supposed to come out in September, and it was released, May. Everyone just said, hey, it'll be out in September, and they released it in May. May of 95. I remember walking through the mall, of which I spent a lot of time in my youth, and I'm looking up, I'm like, those boxes actually have Saturns in them. I'm like, what the hell? It's May. And it had Bug and Virtua Fighter, and that was about it. So I was that kind of lost my path. But others, like the Sega Genesis and the games from before, it's still quality 16-bit.
Mm-hmm.
What did you have, Chad?
I actually didn't own any Sega systems. I know, the blasphemy.
Did you have the Friend?
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was weird. I lived in one of those neighborhoods, with the cul-de-sac, and the guy across the way from me had all
America.
the Sega systems, and I had all the Nintendo systems. So we kind of we weren't rivals though. We were actually friends. You wouldn't believe it. But he it was great. So I could go
those 80s films where the little American kid makes friends with the Russian guy.
Exactly. Everyone is ooh, he's the Sega kid. Everyone is whispering in the corners ooh, the darkened house.
Don't talk to that boy. He plays
exactly.
Sega.
But I overcame our differences and became best friends with him.
He's hooked on blast processing.
But it was great because I would be over there all the time playing all the Sega games, and I never had to buy the system, so it was great.
Any particular favorites jump out?
Well, the game that I remember the most from all the Sega games that I loved more than anything ever was Aladdin. Do you remember that?
Hell yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Aladdin.
That game for the Genesis was so
was
good.
Great.
And I will never forget that game. And I feel I honestly think that might be my favorite game for the Genesis, which sounds so weird, but that's how much I loved it.
Dude, I won't discount you on that at all. Aladdin was an epic game. The graphics were amazing. The gameplay,
they were amazing.
Just amazing. A lot of Disney games they came out before they got to the 64 era or whatever. After Saturn, basically it was just kind of shit. All Disney games were little kids games and stuff like that. But all the old Capcom games and especially Aladdin. Oh my god, that game was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Aladdin came out too for the Super Nintendo, and it wasn't nearly as good, but it wasn't that bad either.
I
like
the Genesis one better.
No, I definitely way better, of course. But I mean, it goes to show you that even some bad Disney games weren't terrible. You know what I mean? They made pretty good games back then.
Yeah, Disney had a really good run for a while there. Really fun, games that I really liked playing, and then I was kind of nah.
Well, you know what I think it was? Is because they actually paid other people to make the games.
Yeah, right?
Capcom's going to fuck up DuckTales,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're how hard can this be? It's pull out Mega Man, put in Uncle Scrooge, add 9 levels. There you go.
There you go.
Topher, didn't you have 2 Genesis? Genesis?
I had several Genesis, yeah.
Genesis.
Well, I had Genesis, and then I got a Genesis 3.
Wait, okay.
Which, you guys didn't even know existed.
For the listeners at home,
I had no idea
this was an after-show special. We were still chatting, and I was talking about, I have the original version of the Genesis, Series 1, and Chad's I don't have one. And Topher's I have the Genesis 3, and then there's just silence.
Silence.
It's very dramatic.
So he sends us a picture, and he's like, it shows it. We didn't believe him. So go ahead, just tell it to the world.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, there you go.
Genesis 3.
It was a
and I
Genesis
have a picture
3
of
on
it.
it.
I have one.
Well,
Yeah, it's just a Genesis. Well, you know how they
why is it
re-released
called
the
Genesis
PS1?
3?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
They
just
made-
Genesis.
They made
It's
three of
the
them.
third. There was the Genesis 2. That was
Wait a minute,
little
wait a minute,
different.
wait a minute. Is it the one that is like the size of like a wallet? Like tiny?
Yeah, it's small.
It is
Okay,
pretty
It's not.
small.
It's maybe twice the size of the cartridge that you put in it.
Don't
Yeah,
get
okay,
confused.
I had the Genesis 3 then. I just didn't know that's what it was called because I remember I bought it and I lost it. I don't have it anymore, but I bought it and I was like, what was in the big Genesis? Because apparently there couldn't have been that much stuff in there. It must have just been all fancy for show.
No,
Because
if it
the
all
one I
fits
had,
in this tiny little thing.
yeah,
No,
right.
Actually,
Like
though,
I mean,
I think the Genesis doesn't have the expansion bay. Like you can't plug it into the Sega CD.
right.
or,
I mean, so it's like it is a
There's also
smaller
a
version.
headphone jack in the original Genesis. Plus, there's two. What do you call these things? There's an extension out in the back, and plus an AV out, in addition to the RF out. So they took a lot of it. Like the Genesis 3, you tell me if I'm wrong, Topher. There was just like on and off, and that was it.
And it has S video.
Yeah.
Oh, sexy. Well,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that brings up a good point because it's weird. It's like you have these memories of like since we're talking about Genesis games and Sega systems, and the Genesis and the Master System had so many versions, like you don't even realize it. Like the Sega CD had 2 versions, right? There was a Sega CD.
I didn't even know that until you told me that last week. It's the
Yeah.
only one I've ever had. I have the one with the top, the pop top, flip top.
Yeah, the clamshell
Pop, pop,
one.
pop,
The
pop, pop, pop,
clamshell
pop.
one came out, and that was a Sega CD 2. Now, I was looking
Right.
online the other day, as I've been known to do, for things, and I found that there was another version of the Sega CD made by JVC called the XI, which was made by JVC, and it was a Sega Genesis and a Sega CD in one.
What?
right?
Ah?
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Oh, but wait, there's more. Not only that, I had a friend who had, this was actually released by Sega. It was also a combo Genesis and Sega CD in one, and it was literally like the size of a Harry Potter novel, like if that, like the first one, not the big fat fucking old one, or version 6, page 3000, but it was like the size.
Like really
You know what? I think I've
small.
seen that one before.
Yeah, it looked like an old
small.
like
I think I have seen
1990s like Discmans. But in the back there was a cartridge slot for a fucking Genesis
Yeah.
16-bit. And that thing came out was like $300. And fucking Sega has made like so many million iterations of their systems. Like there's the Master System, the Master System 2, and I believe there might have been a third one. Plus there was the Genesis Master System converter, and the Master System itself was actually a version, remade version of a Japanese Mark III, which was like this weird home console computer only released in Japan, and it was 1, 2, then 3, and then they changed the sound chip, or actually they added it as standard, and then released it in the United States as the Master System, then re-released it in Japan as the Master System, even though people already owned it. And you go back and there's like hundreds and hundreds of different versions, and to find out there's even a Genesis 3, I was like, what the fuck?
That's
Well, you're just full of knowledge.
ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it's all Wikipedia.
By the way, I just found one on eBay with 3 games for 99 cents.
What?
Wait,
Buy it.
what?
I'll give you $10 for it. Buy it from me. I'll give you $10.
No, it's mine, bitch.
Watch the shipping.
I was really right. I was just really hoping I would find one. That's all. So that's pretty cool.
Well, what do you think was the biggest reason that Sega failed? I mean, obviously during the Genesis, Super Nintendo
They
time,
blasted their whole budget on building new iterations of all their.
well, that's what I'm saying. Is that the reason? Because actually,
put that
during
money
the
into
time,
R&D for
during the time at
actually-
the beginning, that's when they were doing the best, though. Like with Genesis, that's when they finally beat Nintendo. So
Actually-
it's like, that seems to be during the time when they were making the most systems, and then when they started making one system at a time, that's when they seemed to have failed. So I don't really know the reason.
I'd see that's the infamous console wars. Is the Genesis came out in America in 1989, had a 2-year lead on the Super Nintendo, which was released here in '91, and it was for a while. It seemed like the Genesis was a sure winner, and obviously we all know that the Super Nintendo won that battle. You know, over the course, and they did sell more units. Like they did sell a considerably large amount of units Super Nintendo did of their SNES, many more than the Genesis. But I think that with the question that you're asking is like, where did they fail? And I think it had to do a lot with the fact that Sega of America and Sega of Japan were kind of not really working together for a while, and they released, out came the Sega CD, and then the Sega of America actually started working on the 32X without any knowledge of Japan working on the Saturn. So the 32X didn't get Japanese support because all the Japanese developers threw all their might behind the Saturn, which they saw was going to be, the future of Sega. So the American consumers, which was a pretty large portion of Sega's fan base, had been burned by the Sega CD slightly, but then definitely burned by the 32X, which I remember being like for sale in Blockbusters for like $5, And it came out, when it came out, it was a $179 add-on. But and then all of a sudden, like, they launched this Saturn in May, and everyone's like, well, what the fuck? And I think it's they mess with the consumers too much, and that's my answer to that question.
Yeah.
But the Dreamcast was so good. Like, why wasn't that a success?
Because of all the the mistakes that they made. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
I love my Dreamcast. I still play it. It's still hooked up to my TV.
I think if you talk to people like us or people that are huge video game nuts, and you look back and ask them about like the one system that probably had like the greatest like amount of games, but with the smallest amount of releases, I guess, whatever I'm trying to say, the Dreamcast would probably be everyone's favorite. Like everyone loved the Dreamcast. Like true gamers like love the Dreamcast and love all the games.
So many good games for it.
There's so many. I completely.
Are you retro goggling though? Because I mean, I love my Dreamcast, of which I now have 2, and I didn't buy it when it came out. Did you? I mean, did you buy it?
I didn't buy it when it came.
Topher, did you buy it?
Maybe 9 months or a year after it came out. I still play it. I just played it a few days ago.
Don't get me wrong, I love it, and in fact, I played mine just the other day, and I get hooked on Power Stone like more than anything else.
Well, yeah, like that's a perfect example. Like that game is still so fun.
See, the thing is, a lot of us.
If any of our listeners have a copy of Rival Schools 2, Project Justice, please email me, hushkush@destructoid.com.
He'll make it worth your while. It's the same proposition as Colette's Phantasy Star 1 Cock in the Face.
Or that Bubsy SNES.
You've already spent yourself, you dirty whore. No, I mean, since you bring up the Dreamcast, that actually was that when it was released in the United States, I believe at $99.99, it set a record for most units sold like on its original day. And it was a great system. It was an amazing system. It had already been out in Japan for a while. Not too long, but it was always doing well in Japan. And it had, a whole year lead on the PS1. But a lot of consumers, myself included at the time, was kind of like, well, they didn't really go anywhere with the Saturn, which came out 3 years ago. They didn't do anything with the 32X, which came out 4 years ago. And, it's like I spent a lot of money on the Sega CD, and the only good memory I have of it, and don't get me wrong, this is the best gaming memory I have, is Lunar. But it's like, the Dreamcast was... They were suffering the fate of the fact that they fucked up a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Choo Choo Rocket. Come on.
On SegaNet, online gaming, first company to seriously bring it home in America. I know Nintendo did it in Japan.
Well, one thing, I mean, with Sega, it's like they pretty much, eventually just started making games and stopped making consoles. But even just during the GameCube era, there was a lot of rumors that even Nintendo would go that route because, they were losing all their third parties.
To be honest, I really thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people did.
Nintendo's just going to be a developer, and they're going to put out Mario games for Xbox.
Totally, and then the Wii comes
totally
out.
Thought that was going to happen.
The Wii and the DS come out, and they're like the biggest hits ever, and now they're like back on top. And I'm like, my question is, I guess, if Sega continued to make consoles and not just quit after the Dreamcast, do you think that they could have had a chance of making a comeback, kind of like Nintendo did?
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe, but see, Sega was actually broke when they released the Dreamcast. Like they were already hemorrhaging cash from it, and like it would have had to have been like a runaway blockbuster success just to get them back up to thinking about making another console.
And the thing is like Sega games, I don't think had the clout that Nintendo games had. So I don't know if they had the talent behind the games as Nintendo.
But even now, like if you look at the Dreamcast when it came out. the memory card with the little mini games that you could download from the game.
Yeah, the virtual memory.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that plugged into the controller, right?
Yeah, with online gaming and the whole. I mean, if you look at it, it was ahead of its time when it came out.
No, actually it was, because
It was totally, yeah, I agree.
even the Sega Genesis had online gaming. They had X-Band, and I think that's what
Right.
had a Sega Net. Which one was it?
Yeah.
It had an online gaming service, and it was big in Japan for the Genesis because you could download like demo games and stuff like that, much like Xbox Live. Isn't it strange that Peter Moore worked for Sega and now works for Microsoft? We're seeing some of the same
Oh,
things.
how odd.
Very strange.
What a coinky dink.
Yes, hold your 360 controller next to your Dreamcast controller.
Yeah. No, but I think that the Dreamcast is like the unsung hero, like of the Sega's
It is.
everything.
It's totally underrated.
If you're gonna go
Yeah.
out though with a console, that's a good one to go out with, you know.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I mean, it's a pretty like solid console.
I know. It's unfortunately the PS2 had to come in and just ruin the party. I don't even know how they did it too. Like seriously, I mean the Dreamcast came out and like we said, it was like, there was a lot of customer perception that, Sega was going to fail. And I even remember myself saying, someone's like, what do you think of the Dreamcast? I'm like, it's not going to work. And they're like, why? It's a great system. And I'm just like, it's Sega. They keep fucking up. They'll release another
I
one
thought
in
that
2
too,
years.
until the games started coming out, and there was so many great games for it.
They were the home for 2D fighters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Truly.
they're the best ones.
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom. And
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But
All
no,
those Marvel vs. Capcom games are great.
I think it came with a built-in, was it 56K modem, so you could get on the internet with it.
I remember opening the box and thinking, wow, it's got a phone jack. What's that for? Oh, okay. Well, I think it was Phantasy Star Universe or whatever.
PSO,
First,
and Choo Choo Rocket you could play online. And they
Yep.
kept that going for quite a while, too. Was it recent? Just this year, I believe, Sega announced that they would stop production of their GD-ROMs, which is the proprietary discs that they made specifically for the Dreamcast. So a lot of games would come out in Japan, like third-party games, and I believe that's Renke no whatever, that fucking shooter game that just came out, was going to be released on the Dreamcast, and that's where they're coming from. And now,
that's a lot of people don't know about that. Like there were still Dreamcast games coming out in Japan up until maybe a year or two ago.
Oh, not even like six months to a year.
That's crazy.
Sega had a good run. Sega had a really good run, and unfortunately,
It's
they
kind
made
of
a lot
sad.
I don't know.
Sad.
We haven't.
Let's all take a moment and just
a
remember
moment.
Sega.
Colette, if you would.
Sega.
Oh, right here, guys. Right here.
I started
Single tear.
crying.
It's like, God,
Oh my god.
oh, I'm gonna go blast process myself later.
I don't know what that means,
I don't know either.
but I'm going to use that.
Yeah,
Isn't it weird how we mentioned Sega for 20 minutes and none of us mentioned Sonic?
Well, I thought that could be a whole topic unto itself. I mean, Sonic is like an entity.
Yeah, War
I
of
mean,
the
it's gone
Master.
through it's gone through so many evolutions and so many different.
Yeah, you know why we haven't talked about it? It's like talking about your uncle who was like, he's a really cool guy and successful back in the day, and now he's like some drunk fuck up that nobody talks to anymore.
That like
That's so true.
That like molested a child.
I'm not the only one with that uncle.
No.
We all have that uncle.
I have fond memories of one Sonic game, and it's the first one. That's the only one that I care about, honestly. Other
Sonic
than that,
CD was pretty great.
Oh, I wish
You know,
I've never played it. I've never played
yeah,
it.
see, and maybe it was. I mean, I just think it's like the placement of like where I played it. You know what I mean? In time, like. But I had that very first Sonic, and that shit is classic, and I still play it, and I still love it. But like, fast forward 8 Sonic games, and I'm like, hey, I don't care.
Oh
Well,
yeah, they're terrible now.
Anything that was 2D, Sonic 1, like you said, is good. We can all agree. Sonic 2 is actually very, very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the add-on, was it Sonic and Knuckles?
Yep.
Which
Yeah.
wasn't that 3, like in a half-ass way, and then you could attach it to the other ones or something like that?
I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They all like 3 and Knuckles and Sonic and Tails and all those games. They kind of blurred together.
Well, Tails was in Sonic
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, but I think that then there was another one with Tails.
And then the Game Gear versions. Oh, yeah, I've got one of those, too.
Yeah, so do I.
Wait, are you the kid that lived across the street from me?
I am!
Oh my god,
Oh my
reunited.
God. Like, I'm looking over to my left, and I see the original Sonic the Hedgehog, the one packaged with the system, and it says, not for resale on the cartridge.
Yeah, I have
Nice.
that too.
That's amazing.
That's my little Master System, my Phantasy Star.
I'm
1,
surprised.
2,
Chad,
and
Yeah?
4.
Echo the Dolphin.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Have we
don't
not
get
talked about Echo
started
the
on
Dolphin?
that.
I thought the game sucked. Sorry.
No, it really wasn't.
Yeah,
that
but
good. I loved it when I was younger, but I just played it recently, and it's really, really not good.
Aren't you sure you should automatically love it because you're a dolphin lover?
Yes, but I only can love things that are like positive, versions of what dolphins are really like.
Yeah, it's
You don't think Echo the Dolphin is an accurate representation
He's a
of
negative-
dolphin
he's a-
lifestyle?
He's a negative
No,
influence, Dyson. When I look at Echo, he's no flipper,
I understand. It's like when you see a Shadow the Hedgehog, and you're like,
Exactly.
that's just not right.
uh-huh.
No, I wish I had a chance to play Sonic CD, and hopefully, if eBay is good to me, I will. It
Yeah.
was the one Sega CD game I didn't get a chance to play.
I'm surprised because that actually probably is the best Sega CD game they have.
It's
I
actually
might be
supposed
able
to
to
be.
help you out with that.
Oh, awesome! It's supposed to be the best Sonic.
I have to
Also,
look.
No, I would actually argue that it might be the best Sonic.
because they were trying to make a Sonic for what was it, the Saturn, and it never happened. And then they came out with Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast.
Dreamcast, and that was terrible.
Yeah, it was because everyone
was-
was like, "Oh, 3D."
It looked great, I remember at the time.
Yeah,
It
and then
wasn't
they
good.
came
I
out with
think that's
Sonic
the
Adventure
first-
2. Sorry, and then after that,
Never mind, I
it
lost
came,
my-
and then they came out with Sonic Adventure 2, and I believe that one ended up on the GameCube also.
That was on the GameCube, yeah, and that was really terrible.
Yeah.
To be honest, like when you guys said that you thought that Nintendo was going to go to the way of Sega, I thought the same thing, but not with the GameCube. Like when the GameCube came out, I was like, okay. I actually waited in line the day it was released because of Smash Brothers. But I figured if they when they came out back when it was called the Revolution, I swear to God, I was like, man, if they fuck this up, it's going to be another Sega. And lo and behold, the Wii took off. But now I
Yeah,
kind of
it's
think I think it's a company right now, slightly, maybe you can agree with me this or debate it, that is kind of pulling the old Sega, like we fucked with the customers too much and now we've spent too much money on development and we've released a system and it didn't do well. Sony.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
But you'll buy it, bitch, because it's a PlayStation.
The hell I will.
See, the thing
Yeah.
that sucks about Sony,
You
like
will, and you'll thank us for it.
the thing about Sony and Microsoft that kind of sucks is like they have companies, besides their gaming division, that had like billions of dollars. And it's like Nintendo and Sega like are based completely on their games, and it's sad to think that even if Sony, the PS3 and the Xbox 360 were huge failures, it wouldn't even affect the company. You know what I mean? Which kind of
Yeah,
sucks.
that
'cause
whole
it's like
division could fail, and they're not gonna go
exactly, and
anywhere.
like that kind of sucks because Nintendo and Sega have to make good games because that's the only thing that they have to base their their sales on, and it just I don't know, it just sucks to think that Sony doesn't really have anything to lose, so they can kind of throw out whatever they want.
Sega actually had a lot of money in Japan. They have pachinko parlors. And a lot of the money that supported the development of their video game consoles and video game themselves was from their. It's like an arcade thing. Was from their
Yeah.
pachinko things, which is still huge there. So they were making good money on that.
Those are
Much-
addictive.
yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so
Is
Sony.
Sega still making cabinets?
Not in this country, but maybe. But Sony, like, they made a lot of money on their Bravia televisions. They lost a lot of money on the exploding laptop batteries, and they lost a shitload of money on the PS3. But I mean, they are a segmented company, but it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like you've got the Sega Dreamcast, and it's like, oh my god, it's so fucking awesome, and it does all this stuff. But then you've got the other system that comes out, and it's like, hey, it plays DVDs, or like, hey, I got a Wiimote, and it just kind of like just messes up everything, and you're like, shit. Spent too much on that. So, but all in all, I'm sad to see Sega go. They made some great systems and some great games.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these days we'll have
Yeah.
a Final Fantasy first Phantasy Star show. Blood will be drawn.
Nice thought.
All right. Well, if you guys have any comments or anything, the listeners that is, send us a little email over at retroforce@destructoid.com. And much like our friend Ben Haskett from Sacramento, who's been emailing us recently and sending us a couple questions. And one of the ones that didn't get answered via electronic mail was he goes, okay, one last thing. Which one of you doesn't like Metroid Prime and why not? Well, Ben, that's me, Dyson. I don't like Metroid Prime. And I'll give you 5 seconds. There's a big reason I don't like it. It's because I don't like first-person shooters. And even if you change the last word shooter into adventure, it's still first-person, and it's not Metroid. It may be a good game, but it's still not Metroid. There you go, folks. If you agree, disagree, whatever, go have a drink, go do something. This has been Retroforce Go. Joining me have been my fine friends, the Core 4.
Retroforce Go!
All right. See you next week.
Yeah.
Topher, I said you
Not
were
in the
fine.
bucket.
Frankenstein.
Right, no, you're fucking fine. Fine. You fucking freak.
No, you fine, bitch. You fine.
Frankenstein.